of all ages. It's not just an age
Jesus,
thing,
what
but
the
it is
was that?
people.
Okay, why VTubers get to its TOS room?
I'm going to go to a question that I know a number of VTubers have.
Yeah.
And Giga, you might not want to be the one to ask this question, or you might, but
Okay.
I will go ahead and ask the question that I know many VTubers have and then answer it because I know it's one that's on many VTubers.
For the ones that don't know, Dan Clancy is kind of like the guy that, the CEO of Twitch, basically. I wouldn't say like the top of the top, but like basically the right hand.
VTubers' mind is the whole question about our enforcement guidelines and when we publish the enforcement guidelines, the attire guidelines, and in particular the comparison to VR chat. Okay.
Yes.
This is such a great thing to talk about, and I'm actually like impressed that they're gonna talk about it. It's if you are not aware of it, basically, VR chat TOS, I guess, on the platform, it's so much more like more free, you know. The stuff you can do on VR chat, like getting almost naked, you can do that being a VTuber. And there's always been a huge debate on like the differentiate, like it's someone deciding like it's a model and there's a person behind the model, right? It's like literally because one is 3D VR chat and the other one is 2D. And there's even ones that are like 3D models, but they still count as like VTuber. Somehow VR chat is not the same. It's just like a huge debate.
I was gonna ask.
Let's see what they say though.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you can feel free to ask. Why don't you go ahead and ask? But I wanted to go ahead and ask the way you would ask it then.
Of course. I think, I mean, I was definitely going to say it nicely because I think a lot of it comes from just confusion, people not being sure what the guidelines are, who they apply to. Maybe they're looking for more clarity. Some people are just complaining. Some people are more validly complaining. You know, there's a lot of different ranges on that. But overall, a lot of VTubers
So that drinking water already, man. She's scared. She's thinking, how the do I get out of here?
are confused about the outfit policy. They'll think maybe it means one thing, and then they get their model made, which, you know, takes like 6 months to a year sometimes, and then they debut it that day, and then they're told that's not allowed actually, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty on what is and isn't allowed.
Like if it's like a big streamer, new model, whatever, you know, they can always have like a fallback. Like imagine you're like a new streamer and you spend so much more money in like setting everything up and your model and everything. You debuted and the next day you're banned because like you showed just a little bit too much cleavage, or like you show like a little bit too much skin, virtual skin. Like I would get it if like they were naked, but like showing just a little bit of skin, like sometimes it feels like they care more about VTubers showing quote-unquote skin than like actual like real life persons with their camera.
And then why, like you said, why can a VR chat avatar look a certain way, but then this person who's using a model that they
like, look at this girl right here. She's doing like a like you know what she's doing, right? I think if like you did this with a VTuber, maybe you could get in trouble. That's what people is afraid of. Like, I'm not saying necessarily you would get in trouble, but like you could, right?
using VR chat, not allowed to stream a video game with that or chatting, that sort of thing.
Yeah. First, let me, and I think this is a good question. In fact, some of this I'll also throw out there is because you highlight one of the problems that exist here that doesn't happen in the real world that I'd love for us to find a better solution for. So first of all, when we published the enforcement guidelines, there was no change to our policy. In fact, part of what we were trying to do was sometimes people have to implicitly figure out what the policy is by talking to people that have enforcements. And what we were trying to do was to be clear about how we were, and we didn't change how we were enforcing it all around then. But of course, as we do it, that also then brings more attention to something that was already happening in terms of enforcements. Okay, but we didn't change anything with the enforcement guidelines. Now, our general policy is that we apply the same attire guidelines to a VTuber as we do to a person in terms.
No? Well, maybe now, yeah. And even now, I'm not sure. But before? I don't think so, man.
Terms of the clothing that they have on their body, in terms of covering their hips and everything else. And now I'm not going to go into talking through the nuances of the attire policy for humans, because first of all, I'm not the expert on all the nuances of enforcing the attire policy on humans. It's also something that is nuanced, and you have
Well, what is the difference?
to be very careful on, and we've tried to communicate what is our attire policy for humans. And so the same thing applies to VTubers. Now, the big question is, well, wait, why is that when you don't have the same policy with VR chat? And then, in fact, shouldn't VTubing just be like VR chat? And I understand why VTubers avoid that. Seems unfair. They can have that, avatar in VR chat, but I can't have it as I'm a VTuber. The reason.
Hey, at least he's aware of it. At least he is aware of it.
Reason for the.
And he's saying it out loud. I cannot even respect that a little bit more than just staying quiet.
Difference is, and you highlighted earlier about how VTubers do everything on our site. VR chat, if VR chat is a game, and VR chat has a rating in the game, and when people go to VR chat, they have certain expectations about the type of content that they are going to be exposed to in terms of the avatars that they may see. Now, of course, VR chat is just an environment, and VR chat can all be lollipops and bubblegum and unicorns, or VR chat can be, less attire for their avatars and all sorts of things. However, it is the fact that much of especially since when you're in VR chat, you have no idea who you might run into. It's certainly the case that as you go and watch somebody streaming in VR chat, you've learned a given expectation about what you might see in terms of VR chat. And we, of course, use the game ratings and other things to make sure that users are aware of that. That is not the case with a VTuber, because a VTuber can play Minecraft. Right? A VTuber can do anything. And so there, when you have less attire, for some people, they might find that may not be what they are looking for when they are going into a Minecraft stream. And especially given we have people of all ages, it's not just an age thing, but it is people of all ages, not of all ages, of 13 and above on Twitch. And you do want to think differently when somebody's under 18, but there's also lots of users of all sorts of ages that's like, no, that's just not what I want to be exposed to in terms of, I'll say less attire. And so that's the reason we kind of need to treat VTubing different than VR chat, because of the very nature of it. And interestingly in this, I think these lines are going to continue to blur, where more and more in gaming, you're going to have control over your avatar in gaming, okay? And you'll have more and more expressibility. In GTA 6, Lord knows what you'll be able to do in your avatar in GTA 6.
It's going to question those things, and we might have to continue to adapt our policy to, see how things go, but that is where we're currently standing with it, which is, your VR model, we are comparing to a person, because like a person, which you are, you can change games, you can change categories, you can do all these different things, but when you're in a game, that's a game model, so we consider them separate.
So can I ask two follow-up questions?
Let me get this straight. So because VR chat is a game, even though so look, I'll make it simpler. So because VR chat is a game, in their mind, they don't look at the VR chat players, like the streamers that are dancing half naked, as people. They're looking at it as characters of people. But for VTubers, they're looking at them like people. Sorta. So they look at VR chat players like there's a person controlling this character in the game. And in VTuber story, like a VTuber is like a person behind the characters, like a person. But why?
Because I get what you're saying, Dan. Completely agree, right? Because at least when you're playing certain games, you have.
Is that even allowed? Because I would kind of understand this if it was kind of allowed. Where because of the laws are very complicated and like even a law, I would think if that was like law type of shit, that would be like outdated. It just makes no sense because at the end of the day, a VTuber and a VRChat player are the same exact thing. Except that one is in a game and the other one. And even that, because you could even argue in terms of law that VTuber Studio is a game because it's on Steam. Maybe. So even then, it will be kind of the same. Like what you saw at the top of the page. Yeah, I don't really understand why they look at it that way. It makes no fucking
certain labeling
sense.
And things, which I assume has a lot to do with advertisers and a lot of these other things, like just knowing, you know, what's going on the platform. Let's say, now I don't do this, you can see I'm covered head to toe, but let's say I wanted to get an outfit that was more revealing. I know, for example, I can go into the pools, beaches, hot tubs category and show it off there. What if I wanted to just be like that all the time? Could I, in the future, maybe consider having some sort of label or content classification that lets me do that, so that let's say people want to filter that out and it's not fully adult content, for example, but I know the nature of this outfit is what it is, and I want to just click a button and say I want to do anything and be in any category doing this, but I'm not trying to be shown to, you know, the minors that might be on the site. Would there be a way to kind of meet in the middle there?
As if they get the them.
I think so. By the way, you talked about the two different ways of doing this. One is labeling and the other is a category.
I get it though.
Those have different pros and cons, and sometimes we do both, right? You know, in other words, so for example, with the attire exception, right, for a human, you need to be in the hot tubs category, and that is applied. And now some people may not want to be in the hot tubs category, but they want to use the attire exception. And it's like, no, sorry, if you want to use the attire exception, you need to be in the hot tub category.
That's fine.
And it's not just labeling it, okay? The tricky, by the way, and I think
that's
thinking
fine.
of
That's
something like
fine.
that is certainly something that we, you know, can be thinking of and are and trying to figure out how to handle this. One of the challenges that we face is, as we do certain things, sometimes people find ways to exploit it to an extreme. And the best example is when we made the change in terms of drawing and allow to use the human figure. And then
I remember that.
art suddenly became dominated with a certain amount of content. And I will tell you the thing that in general doesn't work great on Twitch is what I will call hybrid categories that have two very different use cases. And ASMR is an example of one such category. That ASMR has like two very different communities that kind of use ASMR and an audience that is different, but it's all within.
So this, I swear, man, with some of the shit he says, like the most stupid fucking way to look at it, and some other takes, this guy is really smart, man. I just don't get why they do this to VTuber. Like, some things he has are like so fucking smart, like this one. He's aware. He is aware. I just don't get to grasp the reasoning why he has that perspective with VTubers.
One category, okay? So that's my one hesitancy about just labeling, because then it can create certain categories might become where 50% of the content in that category is labeled, and now you create what is a hybrid category in terms of the audience that it's serving. Whereas hot tubs, it's better because if you take hot tubs versus ASMR, hot tubs is not as much of a hybrid category because there are not a lot of people that are just streaming in hot tubs just because they happen to be hanging out in a hot tub. And
I see a really easy fix. I see such a simple fucking fix if what they're afraid of is in terms of laws and like ads and like sponsor, and I know like advertising. Like what they're worried about is like allows on like advertisers. If you see somebody, and we'll go again to VRChat, by the way, sorry. If you want to like dress in a certain way, just make the people, can I not see this, please? Just make the people put this thing, which I'm not even sure how you do. You wanna do that? Sure. But you need to have this label. May contain sexual themes. Just do that. It's so simple. I don't know why they don't do it, because like, if what you're afraid of is minor, just make people have that label. That's the way I see it.
That's what they're just doing for the day. But I think
It
that
sounds
idea
like
is
it's
definitely
managing expectations, really, is what you're pointing out, right? Like, just okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
And here's
we also just have like a world of like gamers, and they're min-maxing understandably what we put out there because they are looking for ways to still express themselves but stay within our terms of service.
I think it's more or less competence. Like the Twitch is one of the most competitive environments for like streamers. Like if you wanna make it big here, you're gonna be like super competitive. Especially if you just wanna grow on Twitch by like not doing YouTube, for example, like I'm trying to do. They're not min-maxing because they want to express themselves. Min-maxing. They're not min-maxing self-expression. They're trying to be competitive. To survive on the platform. That's why. I think they got that very, very grown. Like, sure, a small percentage may try to do that, like min-max self-expression, but most people are just trying to be competitive. Gotta get that back, man. That's what they're trying to get.
I get that. Generally, what we want to try to avoid, though, is having such specificity in our rules that people are looking for ways to circumvent them, as opposed to what we really want, which is make sure that when you are expressing what you want to do, that your audience knows what they're in for. Don't tell me that you're Sailor Moon when you're gushing over magical girls. We can tell.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, that goes to...
Not so sure about that one, bro.
In general, whenever
the
you have
fuzz
something
buns?
that is sort of a little bit subjective in terms of the line, this is one thing that I see in chat a lot, think, oh, it's inconsistent. Okay. Well, another way to talk about consistency, suppose I had a black piece of paper and a white piece of paper, and I asked 100 people, is it black or white? Everyone will give me the same answers. Now,
they're gonna excuse themselves with like this, like, and this is their fault, by the way, because this lands on interpretation. The reason why it's their fault is because the way they make their rules, and they literally said it earlier in the video, they expect you to ask, to understand what. They're not concrete, solid laws, like real life laws. It's this or this. And even those you got lawyers that are really good and they can bend them, right? The laws on Twitch are super like, they're on the air, like a cloud. It's up to them and you, kinda, to like understand it on the way that they want you to understand it. If that makes sense. It's also like, if you steal, you go to prison, right? Well, imagine that you stole, but it's because something fell on your purse, so you didn't really steal. It just like fell there. You still go to prison, right? You get what I mean? You're still going to prison, but sometimes you won't. That's kind of what they mean. The problem comes with okay, sorry. By the laws not being concrete solid, they are up to interpretation to every level. So they will be applied differently depending on cases, and that can hurt false positives more often than not.
Suppose I had chartreuse versus pick another color that is very close to chartreuse that many people may not really fully have a model of. Violet versus purple, right? Which are two different colors. To be honest, I can't tell you.
You might so they look at it like two different shades of gray. Like one gray is slightly more darker than the other one, but with the human eye you can't tell
The difference.
And they're using that as an excuse to like, but look guys, it's because every case is so different.
Between violet versus purple. And if
on.
I asked a bunch of people, is it violet or purple? That in fact, you'd have a lot of people that get it wrong. And that's because the difference between violet and purple is very small, okay?
Here is how I'm gonna debunk this. It's not most times than not. It is. Let's make an example. You see this girl? She's showing cleavage, right? She's a human being showing cleavage, showing half, like a little bit of her boob. Now imagine an exact VTuber. Imagine this girl drawing in anime style, like a VTuber, doing the exact same thing. One is allowed, the other is not. Which it is, but I'm making an example. Well, I mean, I don't think that's two shades of grey that are very similar. That's kind of like black and white. That's like, it's the exact same fucking thing. It's not as, like, you know, it's not hard to mistake.
And
that's what I'm saying.
Especially as you start talking about these things.
Now I'll say this, I'm pretty sure like there will be cases where it's very like hard to say or tell if this is appropriate or not. But again, most cases are not. You can just tell by looking at it, right?
In terms of attire, sexual content, that sort of thing.
That's how I see it.
Subjective. And so in fact,
it is
people
not that
try
subjective.
to move up to the boundary to get something as purple as possible but still be violet. Okay, let's assume for a second purple's not allowed but violet is. But they want to be as close to purple without being it. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to call it purple, and then you're going to have some purple stuff that the rater's going to call violet because it is not clear. And so what then ends up happening is you can find examples. Look, here's this violet thing, and they said it was purple, but this person was purple, and they said it was violet. Oh my gosh. Okay. And the answer is that is the nature of this problem when you have highly subjective things, whereas in other areas, it's not highly subjective. Frequently in terms of, you know, hate speech, it's pretty clear this person said this like horrendous thing.
Right.
And so
Dan Clancy, you say that, yet we got some people that everybody knows is in there saying that stuff, and you don't do anything about it. So what exactly are you saying here?
Encourage people, if you're trying to get as close to the line without going over the line, and then sometimes you get caught for going over the line when technically you can say, but I wasn't over the line, and this person, I'm like, stop trying to live so close to the line. Okay. Now you did highlight a problem that VTubing has that does not happen in people, is if somebody is figuring out their attire and they find out because they get a warning about their attire, well, they put on a different top tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's easy. Okay. For VTubers, since it takes time to spend to get your model and get the attire for your model and all that, you know, it's like, well, shoot, I just spent a fair amount of money on this. Okay. And I wish I would have known this in advance. I wouldn't have spent the money. I would love if we had some way to kind of help with 2D models or other things, you know, kind of make an assessment, you know, and that
would be
also
really
the
good.
Type of thing that maybe VTubers help us with this, right? That in fact you would get a group of VTubers that, you know, we work with, and then maybe something happens that in the VTuber Creator Club is VTubers, like you can almost be like, it's borderline. And if it's borderline,
I was actually going to suggest that in the Creator Club. Yeah.
So we actually do that in our ambassador group, and we have VTubers that represent the ambassador selection. There's going to be more about this soon, but we really want to utilize our ambassadors as a way to help us get perspective from various creators, and ambassadors are meant to get sources because nobody's a monolith. So our ambassadors absolutely should be going to the creator clubs, getting broad understandings of like what those intricacies are, and then bringing that to us so that we can make better decisions for trust and safety. So we are absolutely doing that. I'm sorry, I wish I could like unveil this right now, but I can't. We're going to talk about it probably in like I think in our open
That's cool that they're trying to do that, but I'll tell you this, I think the reach is not good enough. They really need to work on reach, because what's the point of reaching to only like the 5 top people? And there's maybe not millions, maybe there is millions, I don't know, but like a shit ton of them, and most of those will never get to see it, so they'll never know. I think they need to work on the reach to VTubers, yeah. If they did that, then a lot of the problems that happen wouldn't happen, because the laws will be rock solid. Not up to a speculation like they currently are. To like the majority of people.
letter, we'll be talking about some of this stuff.
Good.
For sure.
All right. Well, Mary, you know what we should do? 'Cause
have
there
to
are a
get to
ton of
our
questions.
Q&A, Dan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, Giga, this has
sorry.
been great.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. And looking forward, we should do a stream together sometime, whether it's in my
Absolutely.
VTuber character or not. So maybe
We
we'll
need
plan-
VTuber Dan back. We need him back.
Yeah, I know. All right. Thanks, Giga.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great video. Well, Jesus, I liked it, I didn't even realize. But yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. They almost got it though. I mean, I kinda get it too. I think their biggest problem is reaching people. Yeah, because like if they manage to make it so that most people understood what the actual law is, then most of the problems will be gone. It will be more or less, it will become, instead of like, it will transform itself in like a debate, right? And arguments about like this or that. But like arguments that will be based off of like something that's there. Not arguments based off of a speculation, which is what it is right now. It will turn into that instead of what it is now, which is basically we all have Twitch with a rifle aiming at the back of our heads. And the moment we like sleep a little bit, we get shot and killed. That's what it is right now. And that is the biggest problem. This needs to become arguments and debates whether this is right and this is not, based off of something that exists and we understand. Not a public execution because the laws are bendable completely. And some cases may pass, but some others will get killed. That's what needs to change in my opinion.